starts.
The Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network, brought to you by Slovacics. So if we're talking about Slovacics and meat, we're going to talk about one of the all-time Where's the Beef dudes right here, Blake Blackmar, a 5-year player at Baylor. And you saw it all. You saw Art Briles. You saw Jim Grobe. You saw Matt Rule. You saw a resurrection, finishing your career with a bowl win. Thank you very much, by the way, for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a big week for Baylor football. I feel like there's as much excitement around this program as there's been in a couple years, and no better place to have them throw water on the excitement than Morgantown, West Virginia, which you made a trip there. You know, I remember, Blake, you don't know anything about me, but when I moved to Waco, I was a news anchor for a little bit, and it was 2017. And I'm from Philly, and I know people who know Coach Rule, so I was big Matt Rule guy. And you guys went to West Virginia on that Thursday night, and it got ugly fast, dude.
Oh yeah, that one that was a real wet blanket game.
What is that like when you playing in that environment, going in there under the cover of night into to say the very least a hostile place like that?
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre because it's one of those places that, like, you always hear that it's like, it can get pretty crazy, and like it's and the team, at least when we've been playing, has never been like, in the upper echelon of dominance. So it's always the game that everyone talks about, like, don't let this team trap you, things like that, right? It's always a hard fought game. When we played them, they played this screwed up 3-3 stack defense that I absolutely hated playing against. And we went in there. The two games we played at West Virginia that I played, one was a very close game we lost at the end, and one was an absolute blowout where we threw like 3 picks in the first quarter and it was over. But it was it's just kind of different. You have to go stay out in the middle of nowhere, sleep with your clothes on because you feel like the place has bed bugs and stuff. It's just like a not a great hotel, long drive in, kind of pretty countryside, and then you get to campus and it's just like, students are everywhere yelling at you, flipping the bird. You see couches ready just in case, they're gonna if they're gonna burn them. The whole town is bought in. I actually discovered that I have like some second or third cousins in West Virginia that I had no idea about, and they reached out to me through social media, and they're like, "Hey, we're related through this line, so we hope you lose by 100 points, but we hope you do well," kind of deal. And it's just a unique experience, and both games I played, they're night games, pretty rocking. It's loud. It's not the loudest, but it's very hostile. I remember when we were there for that Thursday night game, I think Chip Gaines is there, and there was a clog up of getting out of the tunnel because every single West Virginia cheerleader and power and dancer and all those girls wanted to get their picture with Chip Gaines. And then so it's like, oh, okay, sure. And then 10 minutes later, when we were running out of the field, is straight back to middle fingers and F Baylor, and they got players on their teams trying to get into it with coaches' kids, and everyone is on the menu when you're there, and anyone and everything will be attacked, and you've really got to just kind of lock in, focus on yourself, because the first time you let it get to you and get too emotional, it's just playing into their hands,
Well, when you're, and forget about like the X's and O's or the play breakdown for this game coming up, but as a player going into an environment like that where it's going to be loud, it's going to be unruly, how can your team, the best way to take the crowd out of the game early?
To run the ball and score first. I mean, if you get like a good 10-play drive, run the ball, punch it in, and then get a stop on defense, it's like because that is just, it's good fundamental football. It may not be exciting, but it'll really flip the crowd on you, Now, I think that, Thursday night game, we went down there, I'm I don't remember exactly, but we had at least 3 picks in like the first half, right? And it was there was no getting the momentum back. You know, the crowd was rolling. You know, the whole town's boozing. It was gone, right? That's one of those you go in at halftime and you just get the well, you got to act like it's 0-0 speech, you know, because what else do you say when when you lose every statistical category in the first quarter and you're down by 30 points, you know? And so if you just take the air out of the football, I think it takes the air out of the stands at the same time. You know, people start getting a little cold, and there's not much to yell for. Uh, Nothing, and I know Baylor fans are no stranger to this. Nothing sucks when you have like an explosive offense and then you go 3 and out. And if you get 2 3 and outs stacked right in a row, your offense isn't doing anything. There's no excitement. Your defense is on the field forever. You know, I've seen it happen in multiple stadiums, and I just think that's the best way to. Plus, it's easier, you know, in a loud environment. It's easier to communicate with the guys. You know, you're not trying to trade off games and twists. It's like let's just put the ball in the A gap. Let's get 3 to 4 yards, and let's get a little bit of a rhythm.
How much time do you dedicate ramping up during the week when you're going to go play a team like West Virginia in Morgantown to like, you know, snap count? You know, whether you're going with a quiet snap or
Right.
or a clap of the hands, you know.
So it's something that gets worked like the entire week, you know. I mean, it gets worked the entire season, right? Because you're not gonna stray too far from your standard operating procedure midway through the season. But there's gonna be little twists, you know. For usually the first 2 padded practices of the week, they're blasting instead of whatever music. There's certain periods, team periods, where they're just blasting like the, you know, West Virginia band fight song thing like that. There's always going to be, you know, usually if you have like 2 or 3 kind of flavors on how you're going to do the snap count, how you're going to do silent, things like that, you'll do a lot of work in that. Maybe even try different guys if you're doing like the look and tap the center, or if you're doing the clap, things like that. You'll get as much practice with that as you possibly can. But it's pretty standard for most games. You know, it's going to be loud, and you know the emphasis is going to be on being able to communicate non-verbally with each other.
You know, you grew up in Houston, right?
Yep.
And so your dad played tackle at Texas.
Yep.
And so when you're born, is it just you're going to be an offensive lineman? Is that just how it works?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, dad was an O lineman. All his buddies were O linemen. Grew up around it. Never. You know, I remember in middle school, I hit a growth spurt. I was like 6'2", and I wasn't that heavy. I mean, I was probably 200 pounds, 220, so I was definitely the biggest kid on the team. But I was also the fastest kid on the team because they only won over 5'5", you know. And so I remember begging the coach to let me run the ball because like this will be the only time in my life I ever get the opportunity to, because I know what the future is. But yeah, I mean, I remember going, you know, there would be a bunch of kids playing at the park, playing like 2-hand touch football. And my dad and I would go in the backyard, and we had these, we started off with like someone had thrown away a big heavy bag for boxing.
Yeah.
And we were using that as a tackling dummy, which wasn't great, you know, hit it and it's like hitting a brick wall as a little kid. And then I think one time I was out there messing with it and it fell on me and got a black eye. I had picture day the next day and my mom was pissed. So then we got some real like blocking dummies. But I remember doing all kinds of stuff like that as a kid with my dad in the backyard. And, you know, then it's like you go play at recess and you're like, oh, I love football. And someone asks you to throw the ball and you throw it like a shot put, and everyone's like, yeah, okay. You know, sure, yeah, your dad played football. You know what you're talking about.
Well, how about your career at Baylor? You end up going to Baylor. Obviously, a lot of stuff happens. Program gets turned upside down while you're there. How do you become someone who is a quiet leader for your teammates during a time of just turmoil, transition, and then ultimately you get to triumph as a senior? I mean, the fact that you guys were able to get to that bowl unto itself was a credit to leaders like you. How did you find it in yourself to stay and to lead.
Right. I mean, I think it's a very, offensive lineman mentality of me, but also just like the scenario. You're on a team that's very good, and then get all these accusations and people don't like you, and lots of nasty things get said about you. Then new coach comes in, and we're going to change the culture, and you guys aren't the problem, but also we got to change everything. And you just get to a point where it's like, all right, talk is cheap, right? There's a lot of guys that are talking, but we went 1-11 that first year, right? It's very much like talking's a hell of a lot easier, especially to the media after a win, right? So how do we get things going in the right direction? And whenever you have some kind of big organizational change, the first guys that are over there talking to the new coach, talking to your new boss, you'll kind of tell at least half of them are guys that couldn't do things right under the old regime, right? They're not necessarily guys that have the trust of other guys on the team, but they're the first ones to go shake the new guy's hand and say, "Yeah, man, the way things were being done before, that was that wasn't right. I'm your guy, coach. Trying to get some playing time, trying to get a trying to progress themselves." And it's like, sure, uh, go ahead and hustle. If you hustled a little bit before now, so you'd have some playing tape, you'd have some film. And so, that stuff takes some time to work out, and it did. But it just gets to the point where it's like everyone is talking about what we're going to do, and it's like the only way to really accomplish anything is to just consistently show up every day and work for it. You have clear defined goals, and then you're working to achieve those goals. You're going to have to make some adjustments here or there, coaching. There's all kinds of factors and things that you have to develop as a team and as a leader and as a person. But the recipe for success in basically anything is simple. Get a direction, build good habits, and just show up every day, be consistent. And it was you can once you get rolling, you can really find some joy in it. And it was you know looking back on like the struggle and the grind, those are the best stories to talk about. We talk about the struggle stories way more than the fun stories because of where it ended up, right? We ended up kind of building a culture that wound up with winning championships and things like that. And it was a lot of fun.
Did you take great pride in that trip to the Texas Bowl in 2018? I mean, just seeing everything that had gone on. The fact that Baylor became bowl eligible, like I said, was something very special. Then you go to the bowl
Right.
and you win it. And then you see really the program set up next year. They go to the Big 12 title game and they go to the Sugar Bowl. You were at the eye of that storm.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty fun at the end of that season because we were even the 1-11 year, like we were struggling to find an identity, right? We were just fighting. Sometimes it looked god awful. Sometimes it was like we might be a pretty good 1-11 team, but we're still 1-11. Next year, we're starting to figure it out, starting to get some wins. Almost all of our games are relatively close, and you're able to point to 5 or 6 plays where if we do this, then we probably win the game, right? And we're getting to the second half of the last quarter of the season, and it's going to be on the fence whether we get bowl eligible, things like that. And we still are kind of trying to find that identity as an offense, right? And to me, I've played in some really successful RPO style offenses, and it just frustrates the hell out of me whenever defense tries to pigeonhole you on those reads and your quarterback winds up being the leading rusher on the team, right? It might work for a game or two, but anytime your quarterback's getting 18, 20 carries a game, I just don't think you're set up for long-term success. And we were having trouble running the ball on anything except Charlie Brewer keeps. So like we sat down, Pat Lawrence and I went to Coach Rule, and then we sat down with George Dalio and Sean Bell, the O-line staff, and we were like, what if we just run, like these 4 run plays, just make them work,
Like the Green Bay Packers, basically, with Vince Lombardi.
basically that's what we wound up doing the last game, last game of the regular season, Texas Tech. This is like the one, if we get it, if we win, we'll be bowl eligible. If they lose, or if they win, they'll be bowl eligible. And all week at practice, we just ran. It was last game of the season. It was a full week of very hard practices, full pads the whole week, and we just ran. It was like running inside run almost every single period. Something that almost everyone hates, but we just ran any look they could throw. We're like, we're going to be able to run these 4 plays, right? And it worked. And then we win the game, get Cliff fired, send him a note, hope he picks us up in free agency the next year and when he's the coach of the Cardinals. Then we go play Vanderbilt, and it's the same thing. And the Vanderbilt game was awesome because it was on offense. It was just like couldn't do anything wrong, right? We were scoring almost every time we touched the ball, ran the ball for well over 200 yards. Great game, right? And it just felt like those last 2 games were like the bit of the culture that we finally kind of cemented it. And then the next year, the team is rolling. Now they're winning. They're winning the games they're supposed to win. They're winning the close games. They're winning gritty. It was quite a bit of fun.
All right, last one for you. I got to ask you about the food. I got to ask you about the beef because it sounds pretty damn interesting. So what's this called, Stevie? The meat? Like let's get this going here.
Right. So I'll give you the breakdown. So in this my story all kind of goes back to the 1-11 year, right? Because you play a football game, and it's like, I'd like to go have a couple beers after the game, but when you're 1-11, it's pretty hard to go to the couple bars that Waco has and show your face after getting your ass kicked. So what I wound up doing is I'd go before the game or something. I'd go to HEB, pick something up, and then if we lost, I'd basically go home, fire up the smoker, throw something on there. A couple of the guys would come over. We'd have some beers, and then we'd, eat something whenever it was done. And if it was something bigger like a brisket, I'd wrap it up and take it into film that Sunday morning, and we'd eat barbecue and watch film, give it to the coaches, whatever, right? And it just became a fun way to take my mind off football. Well, fast forward to now I'm done playing. And of course, Baylor's rolling. This is when we go to the Big 12 championship with Rule, and then this all kind of blends into the Aranda transition, and the Aranda Big 12 championship as well. There's some, I think we beat UT, and there's some like UT fan forum where this guy came up with this conspiracy theory on why Baylor was so good, and it was the fact that there's a Baylor mafia that is connecting all these big churches around the state and around the country and using them to funnel athletes to Baylor. Not 4 and 5 star athletes, guys that are underrated athletes, funneling them to Baylor through church. And so Baylor Twitter, Baylor media had a bit of fun with it, and someone kind of came up with an alternate theory of hey, well, there needs to be a meat mafia because at this time I was running a tailgate, and I was I was just kind of cook every week. More and more people were coming, and I was just cooking whatever I could to make it fun. And so people came with the joke that I must be running the meat mafia because I've always got the best meat or something like that, right? And the team kept doing better and better, and we wound up at the Big 12 championship game, and I brought my pit, and I think I only cooked like 6 or 7 briskets, which is probably good for 70 people, and like 250 people showed up to the tailgate. So I felt like Jesus trying to parcel out all my brisket to make sure everyone got some,
like the loaves and the fishes. It
exactly.
Just
but,
yeah.
It kind of took off a little bit, and now it's a fun anecdotal joke that still gets thrown around.
Blake Blackmar, you are the godfather, dude. The godfather of the Meat Mafia.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat with me today. And
one more thing I did forget to bring up about West Virginia. I don't know if they still do it. I'll have to look it up. They have a fan website that does these player lookalikes. That used to be our tradition on the night before in the hotel. we'd go look up, and they would just go down the roster, put your picture, and then put a picture of someone you look like in the media, making fun of you, roasting the hell out of you. And I remember as a freshman, everyone loved it because they basically they put my picture up there, and it was, wasn't a good hair day for me when they took that picture. And my lookalike was that fat sorry guy from Game of Thrones, Sam Tully, or the dude that's just a total sorry soft ass with Jon Snow. I think his name is Sam Tully, and it
Yeah,
was
I think that's it.
that I don't know if they still do it or not, but those are worth a read. Those are worth a read. They do a pretty good job on those.
Did you guys watch them like amongst yourselves, or did the coaches put it up there to like lighten it up? Like
No, that was all internal in the group text. I don't know if the coaches never acknowledged it, but we were night before the game, we're going through there and roasting everybody.
Blake, man, thank you so much, dude. I'd love to do it again with you sometime.
Yeah, no problem. I haven't been able to watch as much football as normal this year. My wife and I just had a baby. But
congratulations! Yes,
thank you.
told me.
I'm definitely all in on it, and next year should be back running tailgates bigger and better than ever.
We need the Mafia here in Waco, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, good talking to you.
All right, Blake.